Tayo twirled in front of their bedroom mirror, holding up two dresses. "The blue one or the red?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Kunle looked up from his laptop where he'd been finalizing their booking at the Crystal Waters Villas in Lekki. It was secluded island paradise off the Atlantic coast, and he planned to propose to her there. "The blue brings out your eyes," he said, smiling, "though you look beautiful in anything." "Always the diplomat," she laughed, tossing both dresses onto their bed. She crossed to his desk, wrapping her arms around his shoulders. "I still can't believe you managed to book that place. The waiting list is months long." "I have my ways," Kunle said mysteriously. In truth, he'd been saving for 6 months and called in a favor from a former student who now managed luxury properties. 3 days of just us, the beach, and absolute luxury. No grading papers, no hospital rounds for you. "Heaven," Tayo sighed, resting her chin on his head. "Remember our first weekend away? That tiny guest house in Ibadan? The one with the leaky roof? How could I forget? We spent the whole night moving the bed away from the drips." They laughed together, the sound echoing through their modest but comfortable home. Neither could have known it would be their last moment of pure happiness. The evening air was thick with Lagos humidity as Kunle adjusted his tie in the mirror. 20 years of teaching mathematics had etched permanent chalk dust into his fingertips, but tonight was about romance, not equations. He and Tayo had been planning this weekend getaway for months, a luxury retreat at an island paradise beach resort. The doorbell's chime shattered their preparations. Tayo leaves to answer the door only to find on their doorstep lay an unmarked package, brown paper wrapped with twine. Kunle's blood ran cold. He recognized that particular knot pattern. "Tayo, wait!" he called out, but his wife had already begun unwrapping it. The blast knocked him backwards, and when consciousness returned, he found himself staring at Tayo's lifeless body amid the wreckage of their living room. The police arrived quickly, led by Inspector Okoro of the DSS. Inspector Okoro ducked under the yellow police tape, his weathered face betraying no emotion as he surveyed the devastation. The blast had blown out all the windows, and the acrid smell of explosives still hung in the air. His trained eye immediately spotted the blast pattern. Sophisticated work, not some amateur job. He found Kunle sitting in an ambulance, a blanket around his shoulders, staring at nothing. Okoro's team was already processing the scene, but something felt off about this one. 25 years of service had taught him to trust his instincts. "Mr. Adebayo," Okoro said, his deep voice cutting through Kunle's daze. "I need you to walk me through everything." "I've already told the other officers," Kunle mumbled. "Tell me again." Okoro pulled out his notebook. From the beginning. As Kunle recounted the events, Okoro watched his face carefully. The grief seemed genuine, but there was something else. Fear? Recognition? "One more thing," Okoro said, producing a photograph. "This was captured 3 days ago at a shop in Idumota Main Market. The man buying electrical components and chemical fertilizer. Quite a resemblance, wouldn't you say?" Kunle's face drained of color. That's not me. I was in class that day. You can check with the school." "We did. There was a substitute teacher. Your first sick day in 5 years. Okoro leaned closer. "Convenient timing, wouldn't you say?" Before Kunle could respond, an officer rushed up with a laptop. "Sir, we found this hidden in the study. Look at the search history." Kunle's eyes widened as he saw the screen. "That's not my computer. I've never seen it before." "Arrest him," Okoro ordered. But Kunle was already moving, shoving past the paramedic and sprinting into the night. He fled into the night, commandeering an Uber. The driver, sensing something was wrong, tried to stop, but Kunle pressed a handful of Naira notes into his hand. "Please, just drive." Behind them, police sirens wailed. The chase led them through the twisting streets of Victoria Island, eventually ending in a spectacular crash near the Lekki-Ikoyi Bridge. Kunle escaped on foot into the darkness. Meanwhile, before the police arrived, a message had arrived on Kunle's phone. The sender was uncombed. He had been receiving these messages for some time now, and its contents had made him uneasy and suspicious. This one read, "That was a blast from your past. Guess who?" An address to a shop was included. Kunle wasted no time, as it seems the only way to clear himself and regain his life back was to catch the killer himself. What followed was a deadly game of cat and mouse across many cities. Each time Kunle arrived at a location suggested by the taunting messages sent to his phone, he found carnage and evidence planted to frame him. The message had led Kunle to the heart of Abba Market, to a specific clothing stall owned by Mama Joy. He arrived just as she was opening for the day, her cheerful greeting dying on her lips as she saw his desperate expression. "The package," he gasped. "Did someone leave a package?" Her eyes widened. Yes, a tall man, very early this morning, said it was for. Kunle was already pulling her away from the stall. "Everyone, run! Bomb!" The explosion ripped through the market seconds later, sending fabrics and debris flying. As the smoke cleared, Kunle found a note pinned to a surviving post. "Always too late, old friend. How many more will die before you remember?" The Kano grain warehouse loomed in the pre-dawn darkness. Kunle had tracked another message here, hoping to finally catch up to the killer. Instead, he found carnage. Bodies of night shift workers lay scattered among split bags of grain, their blood mixing with spilled rice and millet. On the wall, written in red, "Their blood waters the seeds of our past." Police sirens wailed in the distance. Once again, he would be blamed. Once again, he had to run. The second Niger bridge stretched before them like a silver ribbon in the moonlight. Inspector Okoro's men had blocked both ends, and police boats patrolled the waters below. This time, they thought they had him. "It ends here," Kunle shouted into the night. "No more running." Gunfire erupted from the shadows. Okoro's men dove for cover as bullets pinged off the bridge's supports. A dark figure sprinted across the structure, leaping between cars. "He's heading for the maintenance ladder," Okoro barked into his radio. "Water team, intercept!" But the killer had planned for this. Explosions rocked the police boats, creating chaos in the water below. In the confusion, he vanished once again. Inspector Okoro, however, began noticing inconsistencies. The timing of the attacks made it impossible for one person to be in all these places. Security footage from the Abuja International Airport showed Kunle arriving after one massacre, not before. Grudgingly, he reached out to his prime suspect, and they formed an uneasy alliance. Their investigation led them to a forest camp outside Lagos, where they discovered a hidden surveillance center. Monitors displayed feeds from cameras that had been tracking Kunle and Tayo for months. The abandoned camp was a high-tech command center hidden in nature's camouflage. Monitors still hummed, showing feeds from cameras all over Nigeria, but it was the old photograph that caught Kunle's eye. 3 children playing in the orphanage yard. Next to it lay a tablet, its screen displaying a video message. Akande's face appeared, older but still familiar. "Hello, brother," he said, his smile cold. "Time to come home. Remember where we promised to be friends forever? Where we swore nothing would tear us apart? Ironic, isn't it? The place where it all began will be where it all ends. Come alone, or I start killing children this time." The final confrontation took place where it all began, the abandoned orphanage near Ilesha. In the decaying building's chapel, they cornered Akande, Kunle's childhood best friend. The years had twisted him, but his eyes still burned with the same intensity they had when they were children. The orphanage chapel was exactly as Kunle remembered, though 2 decades of abandonment had left their mark. Moonlight filtered through broken stained glass, casting colored shadows on Akande's face as he stood at the altar. "You came," Akande said softly. "Just like old times, eh? You, me, and..." His voice caught. "Tayo should be here too." "You killed her," Kunle said, his voice raw. "No," Akande shouted, slamming his fist on the altar. "You killed her. If you had just stayed away from her." He took a shuddering breath. "I loved her first, Kunle. Since we were children, every day I watched her fall more in love with you. Do you know what that did to me? Then why kill her, if you loved her? That bomb was meant for you." Tears streamed down Akande's face. She wasn't supposed to touch it first. God, I see her face every night. Her smile at breakfast that morning. The way she used to sing while doing her homework. Remember? That stupid song about the monkey and the banana? Kunle took a step forward. "She always knew when you were sad. Remember how she'd share her dessert with you?" even when it was her favorite? Stop it, Akande whispered, but Kunle continued. She would have forgiven you, you know. That's who she was. Even after what happened with the trap, she defended you. Liar! She was afraid of me after that. No, Kunle said, reaching slowly into his jacket. She wrote to you. He pulled out an envelope, aged and worn. Akande's hands trembled as he recognized Tayo's handwriting. Where did you, Inspector? Kunle called out. Okoro and his team emerged from the shadows, weapons trained on Akande. While they'd been talking, snipers had moved into position. You brought them? Akande raised his gun, but his hand was shaking too badly to aim. After everything. Read the letter, Kunle said. She wrote it the day you were sent away. I've carried it ever since, hoping to find you, to make things right. The shootout that followed left the old orphanage's walls pocked with bullet holes. In the end, it was Inspector Okoro's quick thinking and a well-placed shot that brought Akande down. As they led him away in handcuffs, Kunle watched his old friend's face, seeing both the boy he once knew and the monster he'd become. The gun clattered to the floor as Akande fell to his knees, clutching the letter to his chest. As Okoro's men moved in to arrest him, he looked up at Kunle, his face that of the lost boy they'd once known. I miss her, he whispered. I miss her so much. I know, Kunle said softly. I know. In the aftermath, evidence from Akande's forest camp provided irrefutable proof of his guilt. Security footage, financial records, detailed plans spanning years of obsessive plotting led to multiple life sentences in Kirikiri Maximum Security Prison's most isolated wing. Kunle returned to teaching, carrying both his grief and his vindication. Sometimes on quiet nights he drives past their old orphanage, remembering 3 children who once promised to be friends forever, never imagining how tragically that promise would be broken.